off the plan contract preparation. This is kind of a checklist of all the things that you would need before you actually contact your solicitor for them to prepare your contract of sale for off the plan pre-sales that you are trying to achieve. So let's look at each one of them in more detail and understand what they involve and what you need to get before you contact your solicitor. And in some cases, the solicitor might be able to help you with some of these things. So you need to get in touch with your land surveyor, make sure you've got a preliminary plan of subdivision. And in case of townhouses, or if you've got, if you're developing apartments, it's going to be a building format plan. This basically gives you details of what the title is actually going to look like when your development is complete, and every unit or every apartment or every townhouse has got its own title. So but you need to have to put these things in motion before you actually start selling them, because some sort of a plan is required for anyone to say, okay, that's what my title is going to look like once I own this thing. You will need owner's corporation proposal, which will include a budget. It will include all their fees and what are the services that they provide. You would need to provide architectural drawings, especially including floor plans and elevations, so that people know what they're going to buy and what does their development look like. You'll need to provide a list of inclusions, fittings, and fixtures. That basically includes your material specifications, things like what kind of finish you're going to have. You're going to have floorboards, or you're going to have tiles. Are you going to have stone tops? What kind of appliances you're going to have? Are you going to have European stainless steel appliances? Are you going to name a brand that you're going to offer? So basically what you say that you will offer has to be part of the contract, and that becomes part of the material specifications. You need to provide any inclusions to the purchaser in the apartments you are building, and if you're proposing any of options for the purchaser to elect colors or fixtures or fittings. So if you, for example, in one of my apartments that I'm doing, I'm actually offering them a light color scheme and a darker color scheme, and that's the extent to which I'm letting them choose of what they want. And you don't have to do that, but because I'm doing a very high-end, I'm doing a development that's very high-end apartments, I've given them this option. You need to provide them all the details of your planning permit, the conditions, the demolition permit if you've got one. You need to give them your building permit and approvals if they are available. Proposed sunset clause for the development, which is basically like a time limit clause, or when do you register your plan of subdivision, basically. So this gives them the right to get out of the contract or not settle on the sale if your construction takes longer and than what you've actually proposed at the beginning of the contract or at the beginning of the sale. Development, advertising brochure, any kind of advertising material that you use, you must provide it to your solicitor so that it becomes part of the contract, and so that it's basically to avoid misrepresentation later on. So make sure that you are you know exactly what you're telling them, and you then build and make sure that your development is built to what you've specified. You will inevitably will need to provide them all these details, so make sure that you actually have them ready, or you provide them when you contact your solicitor, so that there's no toing and froing. So not only that, it gives them a good impression that you are pedantic about details, and you know what you're doing. So it basically talks that you are a professional. You need to provide them your names, your current addresses. If you're using a corporate trustee or an entity, you need to provide the details of the entity, their ABN number, ACN numbers, who's the director, who's the secretary. If it's a company, if it's a corporate trustee, then you would still have another secretary, and you need to provide the details for all those things. Your registered office, name of the development or name of the building. So a lot of people try and name the developments. I do the one that I'm doing in Brisbane. I've called it Windsor Lifestyle. So that's one of that's the details that you got to provide them. You need to specify to your solicitor that who will talk to the solicitor or communicate with the solicitor. If you are 4 or 5 people and whoever's in charge, you need to appoint somebody so that they can talk. So the solicitor can exchange communication with them. If you are selling inclusive of GST or exclusive of GST, and you need to know that anytime you sell something new, it has GST in it, and so you also need to let them know whether or not you're using margin scheme. What kind of deposit will you be accepting, 5% or 10%? Always remember that if you're dealing with the top 4 banks, make sure that you do 10% deposit, because otherwise they won't count that pre-sale as a pre-sale for your construction loan. So that's what banks are. So make sure that you do that. I learned it the hard way, where we accepted 5%, thinking, we're not gonna put pressure on the buyer, we just want the sale. We accepted 5%. We had 2 pre-sales, but the top 4 banks didn't consider them because they wanted 10% deposit. So I learned it the hard way. Didn't learn it from my mentor, learned it the hard way and the practical way. So I wanted you guys to know that this is important. In case of more than 1 director, it is recommended that a corporate power of attorney be prepared to enable 1 director or secretary to execute documentation. Otherwise, sometimes what happens is, like for example, one development, we've got 3 different directors, and every time something happens, I've got to shuttle around with 2 other people to actually make time with them, go to them, get them to sign, then come back. So it is much better that you get a corporate power of attorney. It costs a little bit, but it's more convenient and more quicker to do things. Things to plan ahead and consider. There's a fair bit here. I'll just read them out to you, and you need to remember. Some of them are very Victoria specific. For example, if you are to market the property with stamp duty savings for the purchaser, this happens only in Victoria, because if you buy off the plan, you get stamp duty savings. So if you need to do that, you need to provide a Form 4A of the plan declaration, which will set out calculation of construction cost, land-based value, and then the dutiable value of stamp duty for stamp duty purposes. Your calculation must be accurate to ensure that the State Revenue Office do not audit the transaction and believe there has been a miscalculation, when both you and the purchaser can be penalized if that happens. Your specific conditions will need to stipulate if you wish to invest the deposit on behalf of the purchaser. So say for example, the 10% deposit comes in, you need to let them know whether you're going to invest that deposit, and if you're going to invest that deposit, how are you going to share the return from that. You need to also let them know the time frame upon which you are anticipating the plan to register. The plan can be registered only when the construction is complete or almost complete, and that's basically the sunset clause. And you can say that the sunset clause is 36 months from the date we commence. So within 36 months, you've got ample time, and you say, I'll be done and dusted, whatever. Because you don't know when you start something construction and something happens, or you run out of money, or the builder goes bust, or something that happens that you don't know. You don't want your pre-sales to be able to get out of the contract. So you make sure that you discuss that with your solicitor and have a good long sunset clause, so that your contract of sales, these people can't get out of the contract, and you don't give them a reason to get out of the contract either. In Victoria, you will also need to provide throughout the transaction the Council Form 8 as to street allocation and identification for each lot, all building permits upon issuing builder's warranty insurance certificate, occupancy permit, any other permit, approval or agreement, Section 173 agreement as required by council. Section 173 agreement basically is like a stipulation that the council puts on you after they've issued a permit, saying that whatever you build has to comply with what the permit has been issued. So you basically can't go back to the instead of four townhouses, you can't go back to the council and say, no, I want to put 6 now. Because the rules have changed or whatever. So if a Section 173 agreement has been put in place, you'll have to build to what has been approved. If you require the purchaser to reimburse you of any connection fees or electricity, gas, phone, anything like that, you need to make it part of the contract, and you need to let them know, and you also need to provide them with tax invoices to get the money back from them. You will have titles, office, lodging fees, and other mortgages, consent and production fees when the plan is certified by council and ready to be lodged at the titles office. So make sure you account for that. If there is land tax payable and you wish for this to be adjusted also by the purchaser, the land tax information you will need to provide will need to be provided. Lawyers' fees. Your lawyers' fees will actually depend upon the amount of information that they have to gather. Preparing a master contract of sale, because if you got 16 apartments, you're not going to pay them 16 times to prepare the contract of sale. It'll be like a master contract of sale with special conditions and section 32 or disclosure statement in Queensland. Preparation of application for plan of subdivision. Your solicitor will do that and coordinate with your land surveyor and titles office to make sure that you've got your you basically got all the plan of subdivision and your titles are ready to be issued. Attendances in obtaining mortgages, consent, approvals, and production fees. If your lawyer needs to get in touch with your lender for all these things, there will be fees for that. Each sale transaction and affecting final settlement. So every time you've got 16 apartments and you've got 16 buyers to settle, so there will be a settlement fee for them that they will charge per settlement. So that's what the off the plan contract preparation requires. You make sure that you have gone through this in detail, and if you get stuck somewhere, no harm done. Give your solicitor a call, ask them, I don't know what this is, explain me what I have to do, because I've covered this from what I need to do in Queensland and in Victoria, but I've actually never developed in New South Wales or Western Australia. So I don't know how that works here, but I'm thinking but I assume that it will be very similar to this. So it can't be a totally different procedure for them to get the titles issue or to be able to get off the plan contract of sale.